What if you're not who you think you are? The question sounds simple, but beneath it hides something that can shake the foundation of human identity itself. Because the you who is listening to this might not be the same you who began listening. We think we know ourselves. We have names, faces, memories, emotions. We believe we are the sum of our experiences. But every now and then, between one thought and the next, there's a gap, a flicker of doubt. A voice that whispers, what if this isn't really me? What if everything I believe about myself is just a story my brain invented? The answer begins not in philosophy, but in biology. 1. The illusion of the self. Inside your brain, billions of neurons fire in synchronized chaos. Electrical storms dance across tiny synapses, forming the patterns that we call thought, memory, and consciousness. But here's the twist. Nowhere in that brain is there a single you. Neuroscientists have searched for decades for a center of identity, a command post inside the mind that could say, I am me. It doesn't exist. Instead, the self appears to be a collage built from the brain's fragmented processes. Your visual cortex sees, your temporal lobes store memories, your frontal cortex makes decisions, but no one part is in charge. When these systems synchronize, consciousness arises like a song composed from countless notes. But when they fall out of sync, through trauma, brain injury, or neurological disorders, identity splinters. People forget who they are. Others develop multiple selves. Some lose all sense of I entirely. So, if consciousness is just a pattern of electrical signals, ever-changing, never still, then who are you? You might think your memories hold the answer. After all, they shape your story. But memory itself is an unreliable narrator. 2. The illusion of memory. Every time you remember something, your brain doesn't replay it like a video. It rebuilds it. Each recall reshapes the memory, adds emotion, erases detail, even replaces truth with imagination. Over years, your memories become mosaics of fact and fiction. Neuroscientist Elizabeth Loftus proved this with terrifying precision. In her experiments, she implanted false memories into ordinary people, convincing them they had been lost in a mall as children, or even committed crimes that never happened. They didn't just believe it. They could describe the details, feel the emotions, even cry over events that never occurred. If your memories can lie, and your brain constantly edits who you've been, how much of you is real? Now imagine this. Your brain replaces itself over time. The cells you had 7 years ago are mostly gone, replaced by new ones. Your skin, blood, even parts of your bones have regenerated. So biologically, you are not the same person you once were. Psychologically, you carry different opinions, desires, and fears. You love people you once hated and doubt things you once believed. So who exactly is living your life today? The child you were, the adult you've become, or something in between, wearing the illusion of continuity like a mask? 3. The self in the mirror. When you look in a mirror, who do you really see? The reflection stares back with familiarity, but only because your brain recognizes patterns of light. Strip away the brain's interpretation, and that image becomes meaningless, just photons bouncing off a shape. Yet that reflection is central to how we know ourselves. The moment a child first recognizes its reflection, around 18 months old, is the birth of self-awareness. It's the first time the brain says, that is me. But what if that recognition is an error of perception? Philosophers from Descartes to modern thinkers like Daniel Dennett have argued that the self is a narrative, not an entity, a story the brain tells itself to keep track of experiences. In other words, the I that thinks, the I that chooses, may not exist as a singular being, but as a looping illusion created by language and memory. Science supports this idea. Split-brain experiments in the 1960s revealed something eerie. When a patient's corpus callosum, the bridge between brain hemispheres, was severed to treat epilepsy, each hemisphere developed its own consciousness. One side could speak, the other could not. When shown different images, each acted independently. Two selves inside one skull. So maybe the self in the mirror is not singular at all. Maybe we are a colony of minds, a collection of conflicting selves pretending to be one. 4. The digital ego. Fast forward to the 21st century. Humanity has found a new mirror. Digital, glowing, connected to billions of others. Social media is not just communication, it's self-construction. Online, you build versions of yourself. The curated smiles, filtered lives, and carefully edited personas. Every like, every post, every digital trace becomes part of a parallel identity, one that often feels more real than the flesh and blood you. Psychologists now call it the digital ego. It feeds on validation and comparison, rewriting how we perceive who we are. The brain begins to adapt, craving the reflection of others' attention as proof of existence. But what happens when your digital self becomes more alive than you? When algorithms know your thoughts better than you do? Artificial intelligence can now predict your preferences, your emotions, even your future actions. If a machine can replicate your personality, does it own a part of your identity? Could it one day continue you after your death? These questions lead us into territory that blurs the line between science and metaphysics, between mind and machine, reality and illusion. 5. The observer within. Neuroscientists study brain activity. Philosophers question consciousness. But mystics and spiritual traditions go deeper. They turn inward. They ask, if thoughts, memories, and sensations come and go, who is it that observes them? Across thousands of years, traditions like Buddhism, Sufism, and Vedanta have pointed toward a hidden truth, that the real self is not the thoughts nor the emotions, but the awareness behind them, the observer who watches. Modern science can't measure this observer, yet evidence hints it may be real. During deep meditation, scans show the brain's default mode network, the part that creates the sense of self, shuts down. The person reports feeling boundless, timeless, connected to everything. Could this mean that consciousness is not produced by the brain, but filtered by it? That the brain doesn't generate awareness, it limits it, like a radio tuned to one station of reality? Physicists like Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff have even proposed that consciousness might arise from quantum processes inside neurons, fluctuations that could connect the mind to the fabric of the universe itself. If that's true, then the observer within you might not be you at all. It might be something vaster, an awareness using your mind and body as a temporary window into this world. 6. The many selves. You wake up each day as the same person, or so you think. But experiments in psychology reveal how fluid identity can be. In role-playing studies, volunteers adopt new personas so fully that their brain chemistry changes. Soldiers, actors, undercover agents, all experience this. The mind adapts, rewires, and believes the role it plays. Even the body responds. In the famous rubber hand illusion, when a fake hand is stroked while your real hand is hidden and touched simultaneously, you begin to feel that the rubber hand is yours. The brain updates its sense of self to match perception. This means identity isn't fixed, it's negotiable. Every day your brain decides who you are based on input, context, and belief. Now imagine multiplying that across lifetimes. Some metaphysical traditions claim that the self continues beyond death, that we are souls wearing temporary bodies, learning through experience. Reincarnation, though dismissed by material science, has been studied by researchers like Dr. Ian Stevenson, who documented thousands of cases of children recalling previous lives with startling accuracy. If even one of those cases were genuine, it would imply that identity is not tied to biology, but to consciousness itself. So who are you? The brain's story or the soul's journey? 7. The mirror universe. Physics tells us reality is stranger than anything we can imagine. According to the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, every decision you make spawns new universes, each containing a version of you that chose differently. There's a version of you who never watched this, another who took a different path, loved someone else, died young, or lived forever. Which one is real? All of them, and none. Your consciousness might only be tuned to one frequency of this multiversal song. The others hum quietly, out of reach, like ghosts of possibility. If that's true, then the you who exists right now is just one of infinite expressions of consciousness exploring itself through time and space. 8. The fragile reality. Now, let's stretch this further. Suppose the universe itself is a simulation, an information construct rendered by something beyond comprehension. Simulation theory, proposed by philosopher Nick Bostrom, suggests that advanced civilizations could create digital realities indistinguishable from physical existence. If that's possible, and statistically, it may be more likely than not, then you might be an avatar, a digital consciousness experiencing code as matter. Quantum physics adds fuel to this fire. At the smallest scales, particles don't exist until they are observed. Reality flickers between potential and form, collapsing only when consciousness looks at it. If observation creates reality, then who is observing you? Are you a conscious being experiencing the universe, or is the universe a conscious being experiencing you? 9. Beyond the human identity. Every civilization has searched for identity through different lenses: religion, science, philosophy, yet all these paths circle the same question: what am I? You are not your name, not your body, not your memories. You are not your job, your fears, or your dreams. You are the space in which all these things appear and disappear. When the mind goes silent, that awareness remains, unchanging, timeless, watching. Science can dissect the brain, but it cannot explain the mystery of subjective experience, the feeling of being you. That phenomenon, called qualia, remains the greatest puzzle in neuroscience. Maybe it's unsolvable because it can't be seen from the outside. Maybe it must be felt from within. Perhaps who you think you are is only a costume worn by consciousness, a mask through which the universe learns about itself. 10. The final question. Everything you believe about yourself, your story, your choices, your identity, could be just one expression of a larger consciousness dreaming in infinite forms. When you die, the dream changes shape, but the dreamer remains. And if that's true, then the you who's listening right now has never been born and will never truly die. You've only been playing the role of a human for a while. The ancient mystics whispered this long before science could hint at it, that all of existence is consciousness looking at itself from different eyes, pretending to be separate, pretending to be you. So, what if you're not who you think you are? Maybe you're something far greater, something timeless. Maybe you're the awareness that has always been watching through every life, every dream, every reflection. And when you finally stop searching for who you are, you might realize you were never lost.